And we're live. What's going on, gentlemen and ladies? Hopefully everybody had a great Sunday. I've had some fun and exciting NFL games to watch, which is always a good time. Hope you guys were profitable on DK and whatever site it is that you're playing on. Since we're down to one sport, we got a little bit of extra time. I'm going to run through review of the cash lineup for NFL yesterday. Hopefully you guys did all right. And if you didn't, you got a showdown slate to check out tonight. You always got next week. You got Thursday coming up. Plenty of opportunities to get that back. So you guys probably heard me during the week saying that because I think like my main lineup last week got like a 226, which was was good, wasn't great, didn't do anything special, did nothing gonna brag about or write home about, but it was relatively solid, but had a lot of things right. It was just a massive day for points. I said earlier this week, you do 226 on this week, and you are doing real damage, and lo and behold. Only one lineup beat 226 in the entire massive $25 double up. So that stuck to being true. It was a significantly lower scoring day, as we kind of all really anticipated that it was going to be, right? I don't think a lot of us were surprised by this. I don't know about you guys. There was plenty of chalk plays I didn't like. Use some of them, didn't use others. It was a messed up day with the wind and everything like that. Some people just didn't play well. So it kind of is what it is. So what did we do right and what did we do wrong? So out of the 8,000 entries here, finished 1,500, which is solid. I'm happy with it. Not happy with my decision to play light on cash because, well, quite frankly, it did all right, and I didn't get a lot of profit out of it because I just didn't play very heavy in cash lineups because I didn't feel comfortable what was going on yesterday. So I'm not going to let that affect how I play moving forward. If there's a slate I don't feel comfortable with, I'm not going to go heavy on it just because this one happened to be profitable. Great. Doesn't mean it's going to work out that way all the time, right? So starting out at the quarterback position, I put down in the write-up for customers that the two options I had at quarterback were Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo because I like this game for offense, which ended up being 37-27. Not the way I thought it'd play out exactly. I thought San Francisco would be a little bit more competitive throughout the day, but Garoppolo was terrible, and they didn't really get the ball moving until Mullins came in. So I did also write that Russ was my cash guy, though. Cash games is just not something that I have the stomach for. Russ, on the other hand, is arguably the best quarterback in the game. I think it's Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, Russ is right up there. He's a stud. He's good every single week. They had no running back to speak of, so the idea of them leaning on the rushing game it wasn't viable. We had plenty of pay down options at wide receiver all over the place, so it was easy to spend up on quarterback. I just felt good, safe, and secure with Russ. He did his job plus. He was awesome. Mahomes was better. I want to shout out one of our longtime customers, Brian Spencer, who said, I think it was Brian at least, are we all just looking at Patrick Mahomes and skipping him today, even though we know he's going to have almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns? And he was pretty close on that one. So, Brian, you nailed it. He was better than Russ, but Russ was obviously solid, so I'm happy with that. Next up, Derrick Henry. I was pretty bullish on Henry this week. He was okay. Based on this slate, he was fine. It's not a good score off of his salary, but with a lower scoring day like this, he was okay. Honestly, Tennessee just played terrible. They were not good. Tannehill wasn't great. A.J. Brown had a weak day. Cincy ran all over him. I think this is Tennessee's biggest weakness as a team moving forward. And I said I would stop doubting them the last couple of weeks. Now they've lost 2 in a row, so I can go back to doubting them. Their just defense isn't that great. They're kind of like my Packers in a lot of ways. Like, they can get bullied, and they need another piece defensively if they expect to do anything come for the postseason. So Henry was okay. Not as popular as I thought he was going to be. I thought he'd be closer to 50%. Kamara was more popular than I anticipated. Next up, Le'Veon Bell. I should have known that like it, the whole idea of getting him in the end zone this week, that didn't keep the late run as the Chiefs were up by so much. He was completely ineffective on the ground. Fortunately, he caught 3 balls for 31 yards that got us something. And on a day with a lot of bad plays, you could eat a couple of them. But, just own it when you're wrong. I was wrong on Le'Veon Bell. Dead wrong. 100% wrong. No doubt about it. Going to be wrong sometimes, and that's all that there is to this one. Just dead wrong. All right. Next up, I was pretty bullish on Kendrick Bourne as being my favorite paydown option as well. One of the reasons it was easy to pay up for Russ because we had Berrios and Bourne and Mims. And there was just a whole bunch of guys that you could use in the 3 to 4K range. It was really easy to do. I know we brought up Marvin Jones on the show yesterday as well, and he scored a couple times. So there was just a ton of cheap pay down options all over the place. Knowing he is the number 2 wide receiver for San Francisco this week in a game where you knew San Fran was going to have to score against an elite offense like Seattle, and knowing that Seattle is literally all-time bad against wide receivers, I wanted to use 2 of the 3 pass-catching pieces, Kittle, Ayek, or however you pronounce his name, and Bourne. Obviously, we'll get to Kittle momentarily. Dead wrong on there, and he got hurt to boot. But Bourne was good. Late hustle to be really good, actually. Next up, Keenan Allen. The only thing that surprises me about Keenan Allen right here is the fact that he was only 60% owned. I would have projected closer to 75 by my best guess, but he was chalk for a reason, right? He was just mispriced. He was way too cheap. Another game with double-digit targets for Keenan Allen. This Herbert kid can absolutely move the ball. Made a lot of sense to go with Keenan Allen, which is why 60% of the field did it. He was way too cheap. I get the faded PPPs because if he doesn't catch that touchdown, he's only very around the day, and he's not a monster touchdown catching guy. You know what I mean? So it's possible he doesn't score, and you can make that ownership play in GPPs. I get it. Fading big chalk is something that's always in play in GPPs, especially bigger ones. But he's 60% owned for a reason. Guys, when we're done with DraftKings 2, I'm going to move over and just kind of show you some of the overlay bets on the weekends for anybody who wants to stick around for that. Next up, Denzel Mims, another cheap piece of chalk, only 3,200. Definitely felt like he was going to have a decent day because he got those 2 catches early on and then did nothing the rest of the game. Berrios ended up being significantly better than he was because he just had way more targets. Mims is the better of the 2 players, and that's essentially what I put in the write-up between these two guys. They're both in play. I think Berrios gets less love, so I prefer him in GPPs. I'll probably play Mims in cash. I definitely had a bunch of each of them, throughout my lineups in order to get guys like Russell Wilson and George Kittle in my lineup. Mims did absolutely nothing. Berrios, I believe, had double-digit targets. Was not super productive with them, but he caught a bunch of balls because he runs the easy patterns out of the slot. Most of you guys know that by now, but guys who run their patterns out of the slot have an easier route to completions than guys that run them on the outside. Just an easier route to run, an easier route to complete. Mims is the better guy, but Sam Darnold is the greatest quarterback in the world, so it happened to be a Berrios day. I guessed Mims in cash was wrong, but ultimately the difference. I was kind of stuck with what I was doing right here, and it wasn't going to do damage or probably get out of the money. All right, next up, George Kittle. Biggest place I was wrong this week would be George Kittle and Le'Veon Bell, both of whom I liked a lot. Whom I was I'm interested to see what Kittle is. They played massive comeback mode in the fourth quarter once Mullins went in there. He got cooking with that great catch down the side. He got hurt in that play, so they got pulled out of the game. Ultimately, in my mind, I can tell myself he would have had a bunch of catches and probably scored because Dwelly scored and he was the primary tight end. The coverage probably isn't the same if it's Kittle or not Dwelly, so there's no way to know that would happen for sure. He wasn't good. This was more a byproduct of Jimmy Garoppolo being terrible. And when we built the sample lineup in our members-only video, in the last spot, I had Rams defense in Ayuk. I said, I can't do 3 pass catchers knowing that Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback. As much as I like pass catchers against Seattle, I got to bow out at 2 of them. And because I'm man-crushing on Kittle right now, I can only use 1 wide receiver, and I have Bourne as a priority for the cap space. Ayuk was also very, very good. Was just dead wrong about Kittle. He may have gotten going late. It's possible, but you can know that for sure. And he was the game completely ineffective. So just got to own up to it when you're wrong, and I was 100% wrong on George Kittle. If you caught the show yesterday morning, talked about Kareem Hunt. Matt even mentioned it on it. He's like, it seems like you're kind of off of Kareem Hunt. I'm like, I am and I'm not. It's one of those days where you don't know how the wind is going to affect this game. Now, in complete honesty, I didn't watch much of Vegas versus Cleveland. Obviously, Packers are playing at the same time, so I was mostly focused on that game, watching us get run all over by Dalvin Cook. So I didn't see it. I'm going to guess by the 16-6 score that the weather had a major influence over this game. And if you can't sustain drives, then you can't really be effective from a scoring perspective. And that was my worries with Kareem Hunt. I like Hunt. I'm a fan of his, but we said all day yesterday, I don't know how bad the weather's going to be in some of these areas. We can read the reports and we can guess, but there's really no way to know how other games where it didn't seem to have a major influence on it. I mean, you could tell it influenced the Packers-Vikings games, but like the Vikings were able to run and do whatever they wanted. Adams still had his 3 touchdowns and everything like that. He just happened to be the last spot right here. And I will say, as bad as he was, I liked him better than using 3 San Fran pass catchers, which got me to use the Dolphins, which is the biggest reason that I won comfortably yesterday. I'd like to sit here and tell you guys that I was all in on the Dolphins. I wasn't. I used them in cash. I used them at about, a third of my GPPs. So I liked them because they were dirt cheap. My biggest concern on the Dolphins defense was that Tua was going to put them in a bad situation with turnovers. And what happened to start the game? Tua with a kind of hilarious looking fumble puts the Rams in the spot for a short field. They scored easily. And I was really starting to get worried that I'm not called a premonition, but just the projection that I had worried about was going to come to fruition. Well, the Miami Dolphins said, no, sir, you are wrong, as we are going to ball with a punt return, a fumble return for a fumble return for a touchdown, a couple of picks, a couple of sacks. Jared Goff was out there looking like the rookie. Tua obviously didn't do much, but Tua didn't have to do much. He was never in a spot all day where he had to push it. So we didn't really get to evaluate Tua much based on this game because of what the Dolphins' special teams and defense did. So it'll be interesting to watch him next week, because I don't think we got a really good idea of who he is based on one game. Not that you're going to know much about one guy based in one game, but I'm just saying, like, the game flow did not work out for us. Is going to because he just didn't have to do much, right? He never had to push it because of how good the defense was. So be interesting to watch him again next week and see how it plays out, because we just got very little to go off of this week, courtesy of the defense. It was great. I've been on the wrong side of defenses over the last few years, so I don't mind being on the lucky side of this one. I know I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million times again or more. There's a certain element of luck that it's going to work out for you for or against every single week. It's great when it works for you. When it works for you, remember those days, because when it works against you, it makes it a lot easier to swallow, is the best way for me to look at it. So that's DK. Ho-hum. Again, nothing special right here. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Dolphins defense. You guys did the heavy lifting. Bourne and Keenan, you guys were solid. 100% wrong on Levion Bell and George Kittle. I liked them a lot this week. They combined for about 12 points. So just wrong. That's all you can say. All right, next up, let's just kind of take a look at the overlays that we played yesterday and see how those worked out. It was a profitable, not majorly profitable, but a semi-profitable day on overlay going into the matchup shop, and just take a look at our completed matchups. And then at some point today, I'll try to drop a video about these right here. All right, first things first, I feel like for the last 2 weeks, I've absolutely nailed the Seattle wide receivers, and I am very disinterested in them moving forward, because going 2 for 2 on these guys is not easy to do, because they're both really good. And it's probably not going to happen moving forward. Like, I probably used up all my good luck picking the Seattle wide receivers over the last 2 weeks, because I was heavy DK over Tyler this week and heavy Lockett over DK last week. That's it. I'm done. No way is it going to work out well for me moving forward on these guys. So my only regret is not going harder on Metcalf right here. That all being said, guys, I liked Metcalf over Lockett yesterday, but it's not like you could ever really go into this one feeling comfortable. These guys are both really, really good. Russ really seemed to enjoy the matchup Metcalf had, what did he have, 155 receptions yesterday? So that one worked out well. The one that was fun, and again, 30 for 54, I'll take the money. But this is exactly what the guys at Overlay, when they put together this website, were going for. And we've talked about these 1v1 matchups and how exciting they can be. I was on the edge of my seat on the late games yesterday. I'm going back and forth between the Chargers game and the Bears game. And all I'm doing is hoping that that misses the kick so that this game can be ended. Instead, in a very un-Chicago Bears-like fashion, they make the kick and send this game to overtime. Meanwhile, I know that puts me in a bad spot, because I'm winning this matchup by like half a point right then. Well, lo and behold, thank you, pass interference call, because on the second to last play of the game, there's a pass interference call as Denver's driving. I didn't like the call based on the situation, but it is what it is. Ain't my fault. I mean, it helped me, so I'm all on board right here. But it was. I mean, it's definitely you could argue as pass interference. I just didn't like the desperation heave from 20 yards out on a ticky-tacky, in my opinion. Although they probably got the call right, so I'm probably wrong right there. Either way, Drew Lock throws a touchdown on the last play of the game. I believe it was the KJ Hamler. He just barely gets his butt down in the end zone. Extra 4 points. Saints get the ball in overtime, so I know the odds are Chicago's not scoring a touchdown, and that pretty much ices it for me. So it was a good time. It was fun. It was exactly the sweat that we've been talking about with this website when you know exactly who you're rooting for and exactly who you're rooting against. That kind of makes it exciting. All right, let's take a look at a few more. Put together a really big parlay. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these that would have paid out well. But I got a bunch of them wrong, so it doesn't matter. Another one that I liked yesterday that I got way wrong was Josh Allen over Aaron Rodgers. I bet this one early in the week, getting 2.5 points for Josh Allen. And this is when the weather in Green Bay was projected to be awful. And Buffalo was going to be bad, but not as bad. It got worse in Buffalo, stayed the same in Green Bay. Also, Josh Allen only ran in one of the touchdowns. Zach Moss got 2 of them. Yeah, just wrong. I should know better than to bet against my boy Rodgers. Yeah, just got it wrong, right? All right, next up, I won this 4-person parlay, which is another big help with Drew Lock right there, and why I was sweating this one out. I did a video on Renfrow over Ruggs. Seemed like an easy pick for me based on the fact that Ruggs is a deep threat in a game with massive wind issues. That one won pretty easily. Adams over Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Valdez-Scantling's terrible. I don't know. At one point, they're going to finally give up on this guy. He's just not good. And Devontae didn't do much but score 3 times, but he coasted into easy victory here. You can take away 2 of those touchdowns, and he's still the winner. So there probably was – he would have had to go a lot higher than I think it was 12 points for me not to bet on Devontae Adams right there. We'll get back into that one in a second. And then Metcalf over Lockett recovered. So, again, this one pays out better than 10-1. And if you can put together parlays that you like, go for it. I should have bet this one heavier, but hindsight's always 20/20. I did another parlay for $5, and as you can see, got almost everything wrong. 1 for 7 on this one. 1 for 7. Not even close. And a bunch of them, I was wrong by a ton. So, not even close. All right, I mentioned Renfrow over Ruggs. That was a solid win right there. Again, know what kind of receivers you have. A slot guy over a deep threat in a game with terrible wins. To me, when you're getting points on it too, that was an easy pick. Even if you take away the Renfrow touchdown, we're still winning this one right here. All right, again, Devontae Adams was 12 points against Valdez-Scantling. He won by 24. Went a little heavier on that one by my weak standards. Again, made a lot of sense to me. And now we're moving into the Thursday game, which we had kind of talked about. So we reviewed those. So again, not a bad day. Nothing special. Not a majorly profitable weekend or anything like that, but not a bad day overall. So because we're down to one sport, we got time for extra videos. Thought I'd take a few minutes and just kind of run through this. Best of luck to everybody tonight. We'll talk to you guys about Showdown in a little bit.